I know firsthand that obedience isn't always glamorous. It cost me comfort, control, and certainty because I went through a lot of trials from being obedient. The warfare was real from being obedient, but it also gave me clarity, it gave me purpose, and a front row seat to God's faithfulness. I realized then and there that God was asking me for complete submission and complete sacrifice. And I said yes. Remember, obedience is the new success, and your story is proof. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Called and Courageous. I am so excited that you guys are here today. And I know you guys hear me say I'm so excited so many times when I'm introducing guests, but I am truly full of joy to introduce this next guest to you guys. He is a father, he is a husband, he is a believer, a Christian, and he is also a podcast host and coach. He's actually a podcast host and coach, right? Please welcome Rory Paquette. Did I say that right,
Nice.
Rory?
Nice job. I'll take it. Absolutely. Thank you, Mimi. I appreciate that. I'm very, very happy to be here and I love what you're doing.
Thank you. It's such an honor. I want to just put it out there, right? Because you are my podcast mentor as well. So I am also being tested here. No, I'm not, but it feels that way sometimes. Rory, why don't you share with everybody everything that you do? Because you do a lot. Just today, you shared that you did a lot. So please share with everybody everything that you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, you are an excellent podcast student, just so you know. It's my honor to be coaching you right now. Love what you're doing. Just today, like we were talking about, you are my 10th interview today, which is just, I love what I'm doing. And I get to sit here across from powerful, wonderful people like yourself and have great conversations that hopefully influence other people and help them with whatever it is they need. But I'm a podcaster and a podcast coach by profession, father, husband, and Christian by choice. And I have 4 podcasts currently and another one on the way. And they are Power of Man podcast, The Podcaster Nation, Wake Up the Lions, and Step Up to the Mic. And those are the 4 that are out there right this second. I absolutely love doing it. I love what I'm doing. And yeah, on a regular day, I think I do between 10 and 12 either coaching calls or interviews each day. This morning, we got to start another way I'm blessed. We got to start at 4 a.m. this morning talking to someone in Australia, which was awesome. And a couple days ago, I started at 2:30 in the morning with someone who was in Germany. And it was just like, I get to just interact with the most incredible people with what I do, and I learn so much, and I'm just truly blessed, to be honest with you.
Oh my goodness. You saying that just gave me shivers because I cannot imagine waking up at 4 a.m. to do a podcast. But you are so even keeled, and so you keep consistent across the board with all of your podcasts, and it's truly a gift. I say that with
Thank you.
full heart. It is truly a gift because even one is so hard for me to do, but you do it with such ease. I would love for you to share, where did this come from? Like, where did your desire to do a podcast? Share the origin stories of doing this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny because you'd love to be able to say, "Oh, when I was a kid, I dreamed of being a podcaster." But, I'm an old guy. And so when I was a kid, there was no podcasting, there was nothing like that. But I always wanted, from the time I was very little, I wanted to be a public speaker. I wanted to speak. I wanted to be a motivational speaker, someone delivering a speech to a group. I was inspired by generals and coaches and, people like Rocky, giving his speech on the beach, later on in my life, but all sorts of stuff like that, because I always wanted to be somebody whose words could change somebody else's life. And so even when I was very, very young, I wanted that. Um, I had really, really rough childhood. And so when you deal with that kind of thing, you go deep within you and you start to imagine yourself actually being able to be a hero at some point later in your life. And so I think that's where a lot of that comes from. You can't save the situation you're in. So you figure, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to save somebody somewhere. So it comes from that. And then, and I was public speaking. for a long time. I did a lot of that actually, and I owned some real estate companies and was a pretty successful businessman. And then, of course, everything kind of crumbled in 2008. Um, Rebounded, came back, and then, of course, we had that nice little, what was it called? COVID or something that happened back in, 2019, 2020. And at that point, there was no more speaking. And so I said, okay, I really feel called. I really want to help people. And how can I help people if I can't get on stage and speak? Well, that's when podcasting came in front of my, came on my plate. And I said, you know what? This is amazing. Let's take a look at this. I started it. And from the moment I started it, I just loved every minute of it. The idea that I could be sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning with, my hoodie on and, talking into a mic and, making a difference was amazing to me. And from there, it all just blossomed and took off.
Wow, that is truly amazing and surprising too, because public speaking is what one of I think it's the number one fear, right? The number one fear, and that was something you actually wanted to do. So you definitely outnumbered so many people. So let's even go deeper than that if we can. So you mentioned uh, a, a little bit about you going through a rough childhood and wanting to like help people out of that. Can we talk a little more about that? I would love to see if those
Sure.
things could help others.
Sure. I'm always happy to share that. Never know how far somebody wants to go or how deep somebody wants to go on their show. So, um, I had a father who was unbelievably disappointed in himself and in his life. He was a very average guy, and he couldn't handle that for some reason. And so his hopes and dreams were not what he wanted, and he took that out on the rest of the family. He found his only comfort in the bottom of a bottle, and then routinely took it out on myself, my brother, and my mother. Um, as a young boy, you're trying just to survive, and so dad gets drunk. Dad decides he's going to start beating everybody up. You go hide. At some point, as the oldest son, you are protecting your brother, and you're trying to like get in between dad and him. And then at some point, it becomes protecting your mom, and it's he's getting ready to hit her, so I go running out there and call him a name or throw something at him or do something to kind of draw the fire. And so I grew up like that. I grew up with the idea that if I could, um, I wanted to help other people. I wanted to save folks that couldn't save themselves. And
Wow.
so, when that's what you get as a base, there's no way it doesn't influence you the rest of your life. And people who go through that, I think, go one of two ways. Either they become that themselves, or they become the absolute polar opposite of that. Um, I'm a 55-year-old guy who has, successfully participated in raising three unbelievable kids with the help of an incredibly loyal wife who could have done better than me on accident. So again, I'm blessed. And as I look at that, I've done things in my life to make sure I don't end up like that. I've never had an alcohol problem, but I don't drink because you know what? You put yourself in that position. Why open the door to that? Because of that, also, and I'm sure we'll get into this more on this wonderful podcast that you do that I love so much. My faith was a troubled journey. I learned about God very young. My mother actually taught CCD, classes with the Catholic Church. So we would go there on Saturday, and I was learning all about the, God and the Bible and the stories. And then I was coming home and getting beaten to a pulp, and I was looking to God, going, "What did I do? Why?" When you have no idea how it all works and you're alone like that, you get angry. And I spent a very big part of my life being angry with my father, with God, and had a low point in my life much later where God literally saved my life, and He's done it twice. And it took the second time for me to understand, hey, knucklehead, I have a job for you. You going to do it, or do I need to remind you a third time? And I found my relationship with God at that moment. So,
Amen.
from horrible, humble beginnings, and some interesting paths, you end up where you're supposed to be, as long as you stay open to it.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for sharing that story of your life. I know that there are probably so many people who can relate to the experience of your childhood. And I would love for you to, I have to ask this. How did God save your life two times? Please tell me both stories.
If you got the time, I'm
Yeah,
open book.
we'll make
So,
time. We'll make time.
I mentioned earlier I had real estate companies, and I mean I had made it by all measures. I had 5 offices in 2 different states. We were killing it. High 6 figure earner, owned the company outright. It was great where we were. And then, of course, 2008 happens, and then things go bad. Financial situation, market crash. Um, we ended up losing everything, and I mean everything. House, cars, toys, you name it. It was gone, and very, very difficult on my family. We got to the point where I was struggling so hard that I was actually going down to give blood for cash to be able to go buy groceries to feed my kids that night. And again, I'm looking at God going, seriously? What did I have to do here? And, angry again, because you really don't know where to put all that emotion. I got to a point, Mimi, where I was done. This one's hard. Sorry. I was done. I decided I was done. Um, and I mean, looking back, can't believe I ever thought that. But I knew how I was going to do it. I knew why. I knew my family would be better off without me. And I really couldn't take what a failure I had become at that moment. And so I went down the hall to say goodbye to my boys and went back to the kitchen and was getting ready to do what I had to do. And I was absolutely overcome with something that took me to my knees, knocked me to the floor. And I had no idea what it was. I didn't feel like a panic attack because I had had those before, and that was not what this was. It was like my whole body seized, and I just fell down the ground. And I was there for a while. At some point, I passed out. I don't really know any of that, but I remember waking up, uh, covered in sweat, just leaning against the sink, going, "What were you getting ready to do? Oh my gosh, what were you getting ready to do?" And just heard the words, "Get up," and I did. And I went and got a legal notebook and just started writing. Just started writing everything I could find on that pad. And, it was every bill that I had, every failure I had, every thought that I had, every, good thing, every bad thing, you name it, it was getting written down. And I just kept getting it out of me. Like, I need to break this down. I got to do this one piece at a time. This is fine. I don't know where that came from. It was just something told me to do it. So my kids come out the next morning. I'm sitting on the floor. I got like, probably 100 legal notebook, pages out in front of me. And they're just laughing at me like, "Dad, you been up all night?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I dedicated the next 6 months to working 3 jobs at the same time. Um, a full time, a part time, and throwing newspapers also, and to sleeping 1 hour a night. And I managed to keep that going for about 6 months. And with the help of my wife, who took care of everything else. I mean, everything else. I slept for an hour. I woke up. I went to work. I worked 3 jobs. I came home. I fell asleep for an hour. She did everything else. Um, but I'm going to tell you something. We got out of it and we started over. And I did not do that by myself. At the time, I didn't know it. Even years later, I didn't know it. And I didn't get it until the second time he saved my life, which was about a year ago. And I'd been sick for a long time. Didn't really know why. I was having trouble breathing. And I'm sitting there one night with my wife, and my breathing's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I look at my wife and I go, at this rate, I'm not going to be breathing in about 20 minutes. I need to go to the hospital. So she throws me in the truck, breaks like 8 different laws, getting me down to the emergency room. I walk in the door to the emergency room and lose consciousness, hit the floor. Boom. See you later. Wake up and everybody's working on me and stuff. I had been carrying pneumonia with me for over a year. I had no idea. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And my left lung was totally frozen, full frozen, locked down, uh, just not functioning. And my right lung finally just said uncle and gave up. It was like, I can't carry, this big Italian guy around anymore on my own. I need the other lung, bro. Help me out. Um, so after a very long time in the hospital and a whole bunch of different attempts, they said, look, we gotta go in. And it's going to be really ugly. And found out later I had maybe a 20% chance to get through it. Um, they cut me open, huge. Mm, it's about the size of a shark bite on my back, the scar. It's hilarious. It's big, big, like, big, big, big. And they just pulled everything out, ribs, muscle, the whole 9 yards, and emptied out the lung. Um, Saw the doctor, a day or two later, and he goes, man, guy your age and your shape and everything else, very surprising, but man, you have a strong heart. You have like a Clydesdale heart in there. And so I made it. And the whole time I was in the hospital was a lot of soul searching, a lot of, late nights of you can't watch the same two TV channels anymore and you can't look at your phone anymore. And you're just trying to be quiet. And my wife and I had some conversations we'd never had before and really needed to have. And I really realized a lot about myself in that moment. And it was then through that process that I realized that none of this happened because of me. This was someone trying to tell me something. This was God going, "Hello, you have a job to do. I've been trying to tell you this for years. Are you ever going to wake up and listen to me?" And I did. It was at that moment I realized that he's the reason that I didn't do it before, too. He's the one who crushed me to my knees and tried to tell me at that moment, this is where you belong. Get on your knees, figure this out, and let's move forward. I still didn't get it because, I'm kind of a thick-headed Italian guy. Um, so those are the two times that you asked about. And since that moment, coming out of that hospital, I've dedicated my life to him, to my family, and to never working for anyone else ever again. Never wasting another minute of my life on something that's not being told to me by him that I should do. And every time I've felt called to do something since that moment, it has worked out somehow. I mean, even stuff that on paper you'd be
Mhm.
like, how did this ever work out? This never should have worked out. And yet here I am. So I feel like I'm kind of a miracle. And I had someone else on another podcast ask me, when we were talking about feeling bulletproof. And I told him at that moment, I said, when you feel like God has wrapped the armor of God around you personally, you feel pretty doggone bulletproof. And that's where I am today.
Amen. Those are two very powerful stories, and it just feels, um man, God is good. That to me, like, hearing those 2 stories is like, man, God is good, and he absolutely loves you, Rory. And those are 2 amazing stories to stand on, and I would love to take it a step further, and now a year, just so you're saying a year ago is when you really truly said, "Okay, God, I
Hmm.
surrender," right?
You
Um,
want to hear something funny? A year ago tomorrow.
really?
Yeah. September 19th.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It is. So, I would love to hear what that journey looked like after, because you said since then, every time the Lord calls me to do something, I I do it, right? So I share even if you have specific scenarios that you could share with us how you've been obedient to the Lord. All right, before we dive back in, I want to pause for just a moment and speak to the author in you. That book on your heart isn't just an idea, it's an assignment. God didn't give you that story, that message, that testimony for it to stay locked inside of you. Someone is waiting for your obedience and your words. I'm here to walk with you step by step to bring it from vision to published reality. So don't wait for the perfect time, because the time is now. Let's be obedient together. Visit theoneandomlypublishing.com and let's write your book. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Well, I love when you and I first started working together, and you told me that your podcast was going to be about obedience. I didn't say this to you out loud, but in my head, I'm like, oh, this is perfect for you. This is God talking to you again, because now you're going to help this, young lady with obedience. And I'm like, if anybody ever, Mimi, if anybody ever learned obedience the hard way, you're looking at him. Okay. Because he's called me to be obedient for like 54 years. And I just figured it out a year ago. So, but honestly, I had Power Man podcast already going. It was very strong, but I really hadn't taken it to the next level like I needed to. I had a nice coaching program going, in addition to my full-time regular job, and it was going well. And I had just started the Podcaster Nation, and the communities, the podcasting community was there for me so like just intensely during this horrible thing that happened to me. I mean, I had people I knew personally from my hometown. I had relatives who didn't even talk to me when I was in the hospital. They wouldn't even talk to my wife. It was just like, they're too busy. Oh, he almost died. Oh, well, but did he? No. All right. Well, then I'm busy. But I had podcasters that I had, talked to and that I had interacted with, and who I'd had very strong conversations with, who were like, messaging me going, bro, you okay? Hey, do you need something? You need anything for your podcast? Something we can do to help you out, and all kinds of reach out, which was amazing. But he kept calling me to do more and to do more and to do more. And, with Podcaster Nation, it was, look, this is great, but do more. You need to do more. I would bring people on Podcaster Nation at the beginning, and it was a great conversation. It was fun, But after that, I would bring people on Podcaster Nation, and I would be looking like, hey, what is it they need to say? What is it they need to get off their back, right? Off their mind. And I had multiple people, really opening up, crying, about things going on in their lives. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is it. I'm supposed to be an outlet for people who really don't have anywhere else to let stuff out. And one thing I noticed really hard was on both my podcasts, I kept having people come on who would say things like, is it okay to talk about God here? Do I need to tone down the God thing? Hey, is this an okay place to, talk about the Bible? And it got to be so much that I was looking at my wife and talking to her one night and telling her what I'm telling you right now. And I'm like, why do Christians have to feel this way? I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me. And again, and I mean, I've only heard this voice a few times, and it's only hit me like this a few times. And all the other times it didn't end well because I didn't listen. This time I heard clearly, what are you doing about it? And I was like, you know what? Nothing. I'm sitting here complaining, right? I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my wife's time, filling her ear with all this complaining about it. Why? And I said, I've learned how to do all this. I've learned how to make these platforms. I've learned how to create big podcasts. And I'm like, I think I need to do something here. And the next two interviews I had on Power Man were men who had similar ideas, similar thoughts. We had similar conversations. And I mean, within 48 hours, it was like, boom, wake up the lions. I need to wake up the lions. That's what I'm being called to do. Since that moment, it's amazing the stuff that has come across my path, the people I've met, the causes, the power that has come through our conversations. People have not only changed their lives, they've changed other people's lives. I
Mm,
met you on Wake Up the Lions, and I get the opportunity to help you do what you're doing, reaching all these people and spreading the word you're spreading. It's been nothing short of amazing because I'm listening to him all the time. And I tell you what, I don't regret it at all. The only thing I wish is that I would have listened sooner. I might be able to actually, lift a weight right now and not have 8 more months of recovery before I can, lift a bag of groceries with my left hand.
yeah, yeah.
But, that's how it goes.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Let's take a step back because those 50 something years of disobedience is something that I feel like a lot of people have experienced or are experiencing, and or they feel like now at this point it's too late. You know what I mean? Like I've lived my life and I haven't done it right, and God doesn't want to use me. Um I've lost my opportunity. For you, I know you had, those near death experiences, but what is your internal dialogue inside of you when you're making these strides, since you've given your life to the Lord? Do you have any remorse? Do you think back like, man, I should have got it together beforehand? What do you tell yourself while you're walking in obedience?
I think there was a time when I felt remorse because, I think sometimes you just can't help it. It's like, hey, I wish I would have, or I wish I could have, that doesn't last long in my life because when I do that, it's just the only thing I have to be regretful about or remorseful about is that I wasn't serving him sooner and that I paid the cost for it. But when you really hear those words, I paid the cost for it. You know, um, my family has lived a blessed existence. To be honest with you, they're magnificent people, every one of them. All of the stuff that happened to us when we lost everything, it brought us together so tight that you know, I I cannot even imagine what our relationship would be like. My relationship with my sons, with my daughter, with my wife. It was nowhere near what it is today before everything crumbled. And, if I hadn't had those things happen, I probably would have been that dad that, just kept pursuing money, kept putting gifts and stuff on the table, but didn't really get what was really important in his life and in his kids' lives. And because I got that wake up call, I've been able to connect with my wife and my children on a much different level. And that's such a blessing to have in your life that there's really nothing to regret when you look at it that way. I just needed to take the hard road to get there because I wasn't paying enough attention.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
meets you where you are. And I was a stubborn, bullheaded Italian guy. So he met me right where I was at. Yeah.
Have you, and many times when I've spoken to people about the path of obedience, they've shared, there were little steps that the Lord asked me to do, and then He gave me the big, you should move forward. Are there any other experiences that you could share with us where you felt like the Lord was telling you to do something and you actually did it because you're now, yes and amen? Um, Rory, is there anything that you could share?
Absolutely. He's been trying to give me those little steps for a long time. But when you realize that that's what it is, when you realize that he's been next to you, he's been right beside you the whole time, and he's been holding out his hand to you, and all you ever had to do was reach out and take it. That's very humbling. And so now, when I hear it, specifically speaking, um, when I went into the hospital, the company that I was with decided right away to put me on medical leave, and yeah. So they basically ruined me at the company. And when I came out of that, didn't have a job anymore. It's really so it was interesting transition. And then I started to react out of lack, out of loss, out of scarcity, out of fear. And so, I'm sitting here, I'm going through the job hunt, process. I'm an old guy who can't move right now. Not the most attractive, employment prospect. Hey, you okay? Yeah, hold on. Let me just sit down in the chair. Hold on. Yeah. Tough to do an interview when you can't breathe. But I recognized, and my wife really helped me with this. I recognized that I wasn't trying to be what he needed me to be. I wasn't even trying to go be the best version of me. I was just operating out of being scared. And I said, you know what? He didn't do all this. He didn't save me from, with a surgery that I never should have lived through. He didn't bring me back here so that I could work for almost nothing at a bad job, slaving away, not getting anywhere, not doing what I feel like I'm called to do. I said, you know what I need to do? I need to go do what he's calling me to do. And everything I heard was go do your podcasting, go impact these people. Everything's going to work out. And on paper, I'm going, all right, look, I know how to monetize a podcast. Okay. But living on it full time, like that's it? Really? This is great extra money, but you want me to just live on this? And he was like, yeah, fix it, figure out how to do it, and then teach it to other people. And that was a big, big, big thing for me because I did figure out how to do it. I am doing it successfully, and I am teaching it to other people so that they can reclaim their own lives. It's a big deal for me to have made that move when I did, how I did. I was interviewing people when I couldn't even honestly take a deep breath. I was having to pause the recording and go, give me a second. Whew. Okay, I'm going to be fine. Give me 2 seconds. And, my guest is like, is he going to just drop right now? Or are we okay? It helped. I got a lot of 5-star reviews on pity, I think, but
Oh.
it worked, so that was
Ah,
one of those small steps right there.
that's a big step to me because one, not willing, being willing to, first of all, your health is impaired and you're still healing, and then losing your income and deciding, okay, I'm gonna do something that, yes, I'm semi comfortable doing it, but like doing it full throttle and being obedient. That's a big step. Losing a chunk of your income, to make that decision is such a huge step in my eyes, and such something that's extremely difficult for a lot of people to do, knowing that they're hearing from the Lord. So talk to me about, okay, you did it. You went ahead and did it. Were there any like moments of regret? Like, God, I thought you were gonna look out for me through this. Like, where are you? Were those moments ever in front of you?
I'd love to sit here and tell you no, never, never doubted it once. I'd be lying and he would know, and frankly, so would you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, plenty of times, because yeah, I work with you. I give a lot of things away. I do a lot of things because it's the right thing to do. And I never wanted to be somebody who was just, 100% a transactional type person. It just doesn't make any sense. So trying to figure out a good balance of how to make a living, but, not be some mercenary out there, where every minute had to be worth $1 or nobody mattered. It's a tough place to be when you're trying to serve, but you're also trying to earn, you know? Um, and so it was a tough tightrope to walk. And I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. So, being on my own without a corporate backing or without a set paycheck really wasn't something I had to worry about before. But I've never, ever had the dedication to serving the way that I do now. And I've never heard that voice the way I do now. And I've never had that calling on my heart the way I do now. And so putting all those things together brought a lot of doubt to me. And I was constantly having conversations with God, and for me, I'm not a real peaceful guy. I'm not a guy who just meditates or has quiet time. I mean, you know me, okay? 12 interviews. Maybe I'll sleep, maybe I won't. Hey, that's who I've always been. And so to learn how to get quiet with God, has been an incredibly difficult thing for me to assimilate into my being. But when I did figure out how to do it, um, it changed everything. Changed everything for
You gotta tell us how you figured it out.
me. Kind of by force. Basically, I basically like, look, I need to relax somehow, and so I said, well, you're not going to change who you are in order to do this. Schedule an appointment with God. And I did. I went right into my Calendly and I said, nothing gets booked here. This is my time. Right. And I'd get off my last interview approaching that time, almost dreading it. Like, what am I going to do? I should be interviewing somebody. I should be doing a coaching call. I could be making money right now. What in the world? And I made myself, maybe. I mean, I just said, you know what? You have to put everything down, just turn the lights off, close the computer, take the headset off, and you need to just be. No TV, no phone, no nothing, and just be and talk. And, I'm kind of a talker. I think you kind of know that. I think pretty much everybody knows that about me. So I had no problem. And I said, you know what? Act like you're interviewing God and just ask him questions. Hey, God, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Hey, this is what this is an issue. What's your thought on this issue? And I started interviewing God like he was a podcast guest out loud. Probably sounded insane, but I had to do something active in order to get non-active, if that makes any sense at all. I had to meet myself where I was, and I figured it out. I figured out how to do it. Now I can do the interview quietly in my own mind and actually sit back and relax a little bit. But first, few months of trying to do that, not a good scene. Not a
Man,
good scene.
oh man, that
Yeah,
is good. I really, really love that you took something that you are comfortable doing, that you have a gift to do, and you decided, you know what, I'm going to flip it back to God and be able to present it to God. And God created you as a masterpiece. So he knows you and he knows everything about you. So he probably was like, oh, Rory, I love this. Let's go. So talk to me about your interview process, because you would ask him a question and then obviously you had to wait to hear his response. When the
yeah.
Lord speaks to you, can you share with us like how he speaks directly to you? Is it a heart thing? Do you feel it in your heart, or what do you do to hear his voice? Um,
Funny because at first he was a terrible guest.
yeah.
I mean, really terrible. He kind of just sat there, didn't give me any answers to work with, just quiet. I had to do all the work, as the host, um, until I figured out how to listen to him. And what I would do is I'd go ahead and I'd say what I said, right? So God, this is, I have a question about this. I'm thinking about this in my life. I'm really wondering if this is the right thing to do. Here's kind of the pros and cons. What are your thoughts? And I'd wait. And then I would start answering. I started saying, well, here's some positives, here's some negatives, here's how we feel about that. So I ended up talking it out, but I was just letting whatever came to me come to me on the answer side. And again, that might sound a little woo woo to somebody, but he's speaking through me to me. And that's how he speaks to all of us. If you trust that he's there, if you trust that he's going to speak to you through you, then every answer you come up with for him is from him. And I've had some really, really cool conversations. He's turned into a really great guest. We've had some awesome interviews together.
Man, I gotta get God on my podcast as well because I love it. I love that process, and I 100% agree with you. People go back and forth and overcomplicate it. They're like, "Oh, I don't know if it was from God or it was really from me." You know what I mean? And so they stop themselves from moving forward because they think they're deceiving themselves. So that is a beautiful thing. What would you say to someone today if they were in front of you, if you were talking to them right now and they were sharing with you, that God is calling them to do something and they're just not feeling confident about moving forward, knowing the life of disobedience that you lived, what would be your power statement that you would say to them today? Um, yeah.
Hmm. It very simple. um, if you're called, you answer. That's that. End of story. If you are called, you answer. It doesn't have to look good. You don't have to know how. You don't have to know why. Don't get muddied up in the particulars, in the statistics, in the techniques. If you're called, you answer. And that's it. And I'm telling you, if that's how you go into those situations, the how shows up. The method, the start, the technique, the process shows up all on its own. And you have to trust that. So that's it. If you're called, you answer.
Man, thank you, thank you, thank you, Rory. How can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you? Especially, let me just put this little commercial in. If you want to have your own podcast and you don't know where to go, you don't know how to start, I will tell you, Rory, he over delivers. Like you think you're going to get something and he gives you even more. He's very attentive. He looks out for you. He ensures that he answers your questions. He's responsive and he's so knowledgeable. So if you're ever deciding like I feel called to do a podcast, I highly recommend it. I know firsthand he's a wonderful mentor. Go ahead, Rory. How can people get in contact with
Thank
you?
you. Oh my gosh. I mean, how can I follow up after that? Thank you for that. That means a lot. It really does. To be honest, Facebook at Rory Paquette on Facebook. All my stuff is there. It's like me and everybody else my age. We're on Facebook still, So just reach out to me there. And if that doesn't work, I'm on Instagram too. Same thing at Rory Paquette. Just my name, all one word. And you can find me either place and reach out. Send me a message. We'll chat.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Rory, for coming to this podcast. I was super excited to have you as a guest and nervous, and you made it so much easier to have you as a guest. You are wonderful. You are such a great encourager, and I just ask the Lord to continuously bless you and bless all your podcasts because it is something that is much needed, and I know that it will impact and continue to impact many. So thank you for that. And for all the guests listening in, thank you for listening. And I hope it was a blessing to you as much as it was a blessing to me. And I want you guys to always, always remember that obedience is the true measure of success and your life is proof.